First of all, I would like to thank Chris Mullen for his last 7 years of service with the Golden State Warriors organization. These are never easy decisions when you have to decide to part ways, and Chris was with us for the last 7 seasons, 5 running our basketball operations, and I wish him well in his future endeavors, and had a really good meeting with him last week, and we talked about what we're going to do here and how we're going to move forward. So I want to thank him, first of all. I also want to thank our Warrior fans for their commitment and passion to this organization. They deserve better than what we've been able to deliver over the course of the last several seasons, and we are committed to doing whatever it takes to win. This is a team, and I think that the focus here needs to go back onto the players. Our players are the most important part of what we do. Our players win games. They make baskets. They defend. They help make everyone do their job, and our players need to be the focus of where we're going as we move forward. I'm here today to announce Larry Riley, or to formally introduce Larry Riley as the general manager of the Golden State Warriors. And I think a lot of you are probably sitting there going, well, geez, this is just Don Nelson's buddy. This is a guy that you've just put in a position to be Nelly's puppet. I got to tell you, this is a gentleman that I've had an opportunity to work with for the last 3 years here. Spent a lot of time over the course of this last season, and I have a lot of respect for him. You've got to understand that I've got a 69-year-old head coach. In fact, he'll be 69 on Friday. He's been in the league for 45 years. He's got over 30 years of experience as a coach. He's got a .565 winning percentage. He's going to be the winningest coach in the NBA with 24 wins next season. And of course, yes, he's quirky, he's unconventional, he's stubborn, he hates to lose, but he's a heck of a coach. So when I'm looking at a person that I want to put in position to be our general manager to lead this organization, I need to have someone that understands our coach and understands what is necessary in order for us to provide him the tools to win. I need someone who can communicate to our entire staff. I need someone who can talk to our players and to our coaches and to manage people. I need someone who knows what it's like to be the best team in the Western Conference. Someone who isn't going to sacrifice tomorrow for today and develop young players. Someone who doesn't like to lose as well. And someone who understands the way we play. Larry Riley has been an assistant with Don Nelson for 8 seasons. He's worked with Don for 8 of the last 9 seasons. Prior to that, he's spent 12 years with 2 organizations where he was charged with building a roster, scouting players, and managing people. This is the right guy to be our general manager. I'd like to present Larry Riley as the general manager of the Golden State Warriors.
Thank you. Let me make a few comments, and then obviously, as Raymond said, we'll take some questions. First off, I'd like to express my gratitude to Chris Cohan, to Robert Rowell, and to the Warriors organization as a whole for showing the kind of confidence that they have shown in me and giving me this opportunity to go to work and to be involved in an organization that I think has the potential to just be a very good one. I've worked in 3 organizations. Milwaukee was a good organization. There's no question about that. I worked in Vancouver. I'll address that one in a minute because that one didn't go quite so well. If any of you are thinking about going to work for an expansion team, look for something else. There's a better way. It has its moments and so forth, and yet I value the years I spent in Vancouver a great deal. And then, of course, I was in Dallas and worked with Nelly in Dallas for several years, and then when Avery Johnson took over, I worked with Avery. And then made the trek from Dallas out here with Nelly in a car, actually his truck, driving in that 2-day thing that people have heard about where all we did was smoke cigars, chew tobacco, and listen to George Jones. But we worked in a little basketball, and that's where things started here. But I want to reiterate that I appreciate the confidence that's been shown in me here, and I'm not nervous about this job. Some of you may think, well, who is this guy? Where's he coming from? Does he really know what he's doing? I don't have a problem with that. Now, it's up to you as people who evaluate as people who try to report accurately, and I assume that most of you do, you'll make your judgments as you go along. But I'm in a position right now where I've been thrust into a situation where I'm going to be required to make decisions, and I don't have any problems with doing that. Some of the decisions I'm going to make I'm not going to like, but they're going to be decisions that need to be made in the interest of the Golden State Warriors, our players, and our fans. And I think it's tremendously important that we put a great deal of focus on our players as we go forward. We had a meeting with every player at the end of this season, basically to try to talk about preparation for the next year and to try to have a mental state where our players would come into the fall camp embracing this season and looking at some of the things that were positives, and there weren't many in this season, and then looking at where we can go in the future. Our players embraced that. I'm not going to get into the private discussions that were there because I held those discussions with players in private. Robert Rowell sat in on a few of those, not all. And I feel like our players are in a mental position right now where we're in a good spot with them. Now, I said mental position from the standpoint that physically we suffered so many injuries that I don't anticipate that the next year. And I don't see that we're in a situation where our players should not recover over the summer. All of you have been aware of the surgery to Steven Jackson, the fact that Brandon Wright has rehab to do, and we can go on and on that list. I anticipate a group of young men coming to work next fall in October after having done some work through the summer that are going to be in a good frame of mind and are going to be healthy. And I think that, that's one thing that is probably just naturally going to happen as far as health and so on. But we're going to take an approach to the next season that we're going back after a playoff position, that we're going to be in the chase, and that we're going to make it real. We are not that far away. As you look at our team, you can go through our positions, and you can say, well, there's questions here, questions there, but there are positives here, positives there. We had a lot of young people who got to play this year. We saw Marco Bellinelli get to play, and then he was injured, but he got to play enough. We know what he is. Brandon Wright is the same way. We had two rookies in Morrow and Randolph that did a great job for us, and they got minutes on the floor. Rob Kerr's also fit into that scenario. So one of the things that we wanted to accomplish with this season after it became apparent that we're not going to be a playoff team was to know our personnel and to know our team and be able to make an exact evaluation as to what we had. And the term exact is pretty difficult because you never get there 100%, but we're in a position where we know what our players are, what we can expect from them, and where they're going to go as their career unfolds. And I think that having that kind of an atmosphere for our players is tremendously important. We're going to start like everybody else next year, and you'll see it from year to year in the NBA. Some team comes from not doing very well to moving up without necessarily trading for Ray Allen or a superstar like Kevin Garnett. Obviously, you're going to get a bump when you have that happen. But there are also teams that have stayed intact and just got better. And that's one of the things about our young players. They are going to continue to get better. I do believe this. When a player gets to be 26, 27 years old, they're probably not going to change a lot. They probably are what they are. But we have a lot of guys that we can work with who will be better players as we proceed. I think the other thing that I wanted to address with you is that when Nellie and I came here, he charged me with one major issue, and that was to get the system in place. From the standpoint that I knew how he wanted to play and how he felt the game should be played. And get the system in place, keep things organized, let's don't have any screw-ups. And that was it. Now, my job was then to help him coach, to teach on the floor with players, to work with our assistant coaches, and to get our assistant coaches to where they were involved with us a great deal and understood the system. We've accomplished some of those things without question. It's now my job to change seats. I'm no longer an assistant coach. I'm going to sit upstairs, and I'm going to make some decisions that will be popular in some instances and unpopular in others. I don't care about that. We will collect information, and we'll make decisions. If you look at the Utah franchise, for an example, everybody says, well, they had John Stockton, Karl Malone, and okay, greatness goes along with that. Well, when those guys were gone, that system was able to stay in place and get back to being one of the models that you see in the NBA that's successful. They have an older coach in Jerry Sloan. They have a general manager in Kevin O'Connor who's not afraid to make decisions, and they have business people who are involved in their decisions as well. And this is an approach that I think we are going to have to take. It's an approach I'm going to take, which is consulting with Nellie, with Robert Rowell on the business end of things, collecting information from our scouts, assistant coaches, and making decisions. Some of you are going to say, Robert just said it, Riley's a puppet. That's already out there. We're joined at the hip when we came here. Let's don't fool anybody about that nonsense. Now, does Nellie dictate my life? No. Is he a good friend? Yes. Do I listen to him? Yes. If I have to make a counter decision, I'll make it based on the information that I collect. I don't see that happening. Some of you say, well, good luck. Okay, I understand that. I understand that. But this stuff of, Don Nelson's running the organization. I talked to him again last night. He told me over and over and over again, I have no interest in being general manager. I want to coach the team. That's what I've got left, and that's what I want to do. We're very comfortable with each other, obviously. We're looking to add a player who's going to help our team somewhat short range and also long range. And I have ideas on that. I don't know exactly where we're going to be picking yet, but I spent the last 6 months scouring the country, watching college basketball games, and going to Europe. And we feel through our staff and through the way I've seen the games, we can make and will make a selection that will be beneficial to our basketball team. And will there be work to be done this summer regards to free agency and trades and so forth? Yes, there is. That's the obvious again. But those are things that I'm very interested in tackling as a part of the position here. And I'll reiterate, I don't mind telling you, we will have failed if we don't get to the playoffs before I'm done here. And if we don't get to the playoffs soon, I won't be here that long. We all know that. And that's okay. That's what this business is all about. But we're going back to the playoffs soon, and we're going to continue to play exciting basketball, and we're going to give our fans some real enjoyment as we go forward. As far as Dallas, great run. We won a lot of ball games. As far as the Golden State Warriors, I'm happy here. I enjoy this place. Nobody can forget what happened 2 years ago. Wonderful. Keep it as a memory, but that's gone. That is gone. It's the next season that is important to us. And that's where the whole focus of this thing is going right now. We're focused on this summer and the next season.
Monty Poole, Oakland Tribune, Bay Area News Group. Bobby, what impressed you about Larry that led you to believe that he can make this rise from assistant coach to the head of the basketball operation in such a short span of time?
Well, over the course of the last 3 years, I got an opportunity to watch Larry, and you guys probably don't know this, but he has been instrumental in our D-League findings. And I think that's one of his strengths, is to be able to find talent, young skill, have a good feel as to who will fit into our system and play Nellie's style of basketball. And I think it's resulted in some pretty favorable decisions on our part. I think we've done one of the better jobs in the league, in the D-League. And then also his communication style, the way in which he interacts with our staff, the way in which he interacts with our players. This is a people business. We've got 14, 15 guys on our roster. We need to be able to talk to them. We need to be able to have sometimes hard conversations, and also at the same time pat guys on the back. And I've seen both sides of Larry's capabilities, and I think that, from our standpoint, what we need, where we need to go, he's the right fit.
Hey, Larry. Scott Osler, San Francisco Chronicle, over here.
Oh,
in the back.
okay. Oh,
Hey, Larry.
okay.
How you doing? Who will you have final say on all the draft picks? Who gets drafted?
Yes. Robert and I have had discussions on that. I'll make basketball decisions. He'll be involved in business decisions, and we'll come together on that. And then somebody will come back and say, well, who has the hammer? Who has the clout? We've been able to work through that this last winter, for example, on trades that could have happened and didn't for whatever reason. And but I'll make the draft picks, and I'll make the trade decisions, and I will seek input from everybody that I can get to within reason. Some people, I started on this thing, I suppose it was November, I don't even remember the date, but I made the comment at one time that I needed to call every team in the league and get a pulse of what was going on in this league, regards to trades and so forth, and people scoffed and laughed, Well, I don't care about that. I need to have a pulse of what possible trades are out there. And I need to be in contact with various teams, not every day, but I need to have a feel for what's going on in the league. And that's part of my job. That's one of the things that I intend to do.
Bobby, Janie Hu with the San Francisco Chronicle. Can you kind of explain the timing of the decision, why make this move now versus earlier in the year? Versus not earlier in the year?
Well, it's actually kind of an ironic question. First of all, decisions like this are not easy to make. 7 years ago, I worked pretty hard to bring Chris back into the organization here. And anytime you deal with situations that affect people who you have developed friendships and relationships with, it makes it tough. But this also is a business. And I think the irony in it is I've spent the last 9 months evaluating our business very, very similarly to the way in which your companies are evaluating how you guys are doing business moving forward. And decisions aren't made quickly. And in this day and age where the stakes are high in evaluating businesses and how you're going to do business and how you're going to position yourself as you move forward, you take your time. And you do the right things. And you don't just do things because people think you should be doing things the way that they want you to do it. That's why.
Chris is obviously still under contract with you guys through the end of June. Will he have responsibilities between now and then, or is he pretty much just under contract?
He has some responsibilities right now. In fact, he's working on something for me right now as we speak. So, yes. And, again, we had a great meeting last week, and I laid out some things that I'd like him to do, and he was very amicable. And I wish Chris nothing but the absolute best, and will do whatever I have to do and can do to help him, in the quest for his next position.
Tim Kawakami, San Jose Mercury News. Bobby, you mentioned one playoff season in 5 years is not acceptable. Well, for you, it's about 1 in 9, I guess. You've been running this franchise. For Chris Cohan, it's been 1 in 15. At what point is there responsibility placed upon your shoulders or the owners?
Sure, good question. This is my 6th season as president of the organization, and I'm accountable on a daily basis to how we perform and how we do business, and there's no one that likes to lose, and there's no one that takes it harder than I take it. As far as my accountability, I'm judged and evaluated by my boss, and he has a set of criteria that he obviously uses. As far as 1 in 5 years not being acceptable, 3 years ago, we had the 8th best record in the West. 2 years ago, we had the 9th best record in the West, and this past year we had the 10th best record in the West, and our fans deserve better than that, and we're going to fix that. So that's my job, that's my charge, and that's why we're going the direction that we're going in, and we're focused and committed to winning.
Larry, Rich Walkoff from over here for KGO Radio. Could you give me just a broad brush overview of how you believe the Warriors should be going forward, what you think your primary needs are? Is there going to be, you had a half a new roster this year, are you likely to just grow and go with what you've got, or are you looking to make some drastic changes in personnel?
Well, we've talked about that with our assistant coaches, with Nellie, and tried to get a feel for how they see things. And then I've been spending quite a bit of time making that exact evaluation. I'll give you kind of a, as you say, a broad brush. I don't anticipate shaking this team up to the point where you don't recognize it next year. I anticipate maybe 1 or 2 moves to give us some help. We are a very young team. At one time last year, we had the youngest roster in the league. I think adding a veteran would be very helpful to us. And obviously, we're going to add another young guy in the draft. So there needs to be some balance there. Some maturity and some leadership would be very helpful to us. And needs to be a quality player. It doesn't do any good to go acquire a guy who is older, mature, and going to be your 12th man. I don't see that working for us. It does work sometimes for other teams, but I don't see that working for us.
A quick follow-up. Do you envision Monte Ellis being your primary point guard?
That's going to be Nellie's decision. I know he wants to play him there as much as he can next year, and it will depend on how things unfold and how training camp goes, and also depend on who we might draft or who we might trade for. I'm happy with Monte at this stage, from the standpoint that he's in a good mental state right now. I think he's going to come back without issue. The reason that we shut him down at the end of the year was there's really no point in going ahead with him playing. He had, as has been documented, a sprained ankle at the end of the year. Luckily for us, the best thing about that was that the injury that he sustained late in the year was on the opposite side of the ankle from the one that was the real problem. And so there just wasn't much of a point in going ahead with that. And plus the bones in that ankle had been bruised some, and there was just no point in going on with that. So I anticipate him coming back fully healthy, and I think he'll have recovered his full speed, and I think his game will show that. I think we only saw him play really at a top level for maybe 5 or 6 games this year. He was getting there, and it took some while for him to get acclimated and get ready to go. Many of you probably know he was so mad at me at one time that he would hardly speak to me because he wanted to play about 2 weeks before he was ready. I mean, this kid wants to play, and that's something that's extremely important. The desire to get out there and play. You can't let them go out there and play when they're running the risk of hurting themselves. Now, has he got some work to do? And do we need to get him in good practice sessions and get him moving with a point guard's mentality? And do we need to upgrade things? Yes, we do.
Yeah, Larry, back here, right here.
Okay.
Hi. I'm Mark Purdy of the Mercury News and Bay Area News Group. You brought it up, so I'll follow. You mentioned that you wouldn't, if I wrote it down properly, you wouldn't, if you have to make a counter decision to Don Nelson at some point, you would make it. That he doesn't dictate your life. But you're. Could you give me an example of where maybe you've disagreed with Don in the past on something, or maybe moving ahead, something you may disagree with him in terms of basketball philosophy? That would be interesting.
The basic philosophy is the same. I embrace the style of play that Don Nelson has used for years. I think it's the way to play this game, to provide the best opportunity for players to show what they can do, and then along with that, it provides a very entertaining evening of basketball. So as far as the system is concerned, we're together on that. Could I give you an example of some time when Nellie and I did not agree? I could. It has happened. I won't give it to you. It's confidential information that doesn't need to go anywhere. Oh, well, absolutely. I thought you were talking basketball. No, we agree on where to go eat dinner and those kind of things. But, no, in basketball there have been those moments. We both respect each other. That's the thing I'm comfortable with Nellie about this. Everybody thinks that he's going to ram everything down everybody else's throat. And I find him very, very not easy to work with, but in many instances very sensible. Now, have there been instances where he wanted to do something that I didn't like and it got done anyway? Yeah, we've got both sides of that. But I look forward to working with him. I I want his input. I don't want anybody to come out of here thinking that I'm stepping up here to be a really tough guy and that I'm going to ram my fist down people's throat. I want input from all angles, and then I'll make a decision. And I don't anticipate big problems with Nellie and I being able to have agreements on most of the stuff that's going to come up. We might go a year, 2 years without something like that coming up.
I respect what you said about maybe disagree with basketball. You don't want to share it.
Bobby,
Yes.
you mentioned earlier that you have a 69-year-old coach. He's under contract for 2 more years. The players that form the core of the roster would seem to be 3 to 4 years away from their peaks. I'm talking about guys like Ellis Randolph, Brandon Wright, Morrow, Biedrins, these guys. Where's the visionary here? In other words, is Don Nelson going to be here to coach these guys in their prime, or are we going to make another change 2 years from now and go in another direction, even though these guys are entering their primes?
Well, I wish I had a crystal ball to tell you exactly how long Nelly wants to continue to coach and how long we want him to continue to coach past the next 2 seasons. What I can say is we're going to play the style of basketball that we're playing and that we have played and that we're going to continue to play moving forward under Don. And if and when we decide to make changes and or groom new people into a potential position as a coach, we're going to have that same philosophy in mind, because I agree with Larry. That is the style of basketball that we want to play.
Bobby? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Someone Nelly leads, whenever that is, has not dictate a change in style. You don't see that happen.
No, I think that's going to be Larry's job to find the individual who is best suited to be able to continue that style.
Larry outlasts Nelly.
Well, one would hope he does. Right?
Right.
Bobby, how important is that establishment of that credibility without Chris moving forward and, again, Larry taking over?
Well, I mean, it's an interesting question, but I'll also tell you that, and I don't know how many people know this, but the gentleman who was the executive of the year this year in the NBA was Mark Workentine from Denver. You don't need to be a big name, per se, to do a good job. And Mark has, like Larry, a lot of years of experience, some being the number 2, some being the number 1. And in this business, you got to get a chance to be number 1. And that's Larry's opportunity right now. And he has a chance to seize that. He's got 21 years of experience in this league. He's worked in all capacities. He coached college basketball. He's scouted. He's advanced scouted. He's put rosters together. He's drafted players. He stayed in bad hotels to watch good players and bad players play basketball. He's paid his dues. It's his time. It's his chance.
I think I'd like to add one comment to that. I think it's important that we look at our own staff, and when there's an opportunity for advancement, this is philosophical on my part, but I look at our own people first before I look outside the organization. Now, I know the question was raised, and the decision that Robert just had to make requires that you look outside and so forth. But I want to look at our organization and bring people into it who are going to grow and who are going to be able to go on and get to a higher level or get to another team and actually make things better for everybody. Is that a dream? Heavens, yes. But if you don't dream, you don't get anything. It's like with my kids. If I expect nothing from them, I get nothing. If you set the bar somewhere that is attainable but high, that's what you got to do. And it's very simple. And people can work together under those circumstances. But if I had taken my son and expected nothing from him, he wouldn't have given us much. And, and I'm not comparing our staff and our players to children. I'm not saying that, but you get the idea. Philosophically, the comparison is set the bar, give people an opportunity to go to work, and when they succeed, do something to pat them on the back and help them climb the ladder a little bit.
We have a last
Larry, this is a 17-part question.
Hold on.
I'll cut it to two. Number one, one of the big ordeals made by us, I'm sure Bobby would say, was the Nelly Crawford relationship. Where do you stand with that? It seemed like it's been accepted that he's either going to be traded or opted out. But where do you stand being the number one now?
Well, let me limit my comments there because I'm not going to discuss his contract or potential trades or anything like that. We ended the season with Jamal Crawford acting like a tremendous professional and accepting the situation that he was in at that time, and then talking with Nelly, and the two of them working it out to an extent that they could coexist. That's where we are going into the summer and the next season. Are they, is it a rosy situation that just couldn't be better? Probably not. But they're both professionals, and they both have jobs to do, and they both understand that. And that's really where I would leave it as far as that's concerned. You all know the history of that thing. Are the fences totally mended? Maybe not. But are they both professional? There's no doubt.
And part number two, where you obviously have a quirky coach who's stubborn, to use Bobby's words. How
and
do
good.
Do you have a plan? Do you have a plan to deal with that, or are you fine with Nelly's, emotions after losses and his rants? As the GM, will that be okay with you, or will you seek to kind of shut that down?
Don Nelson is Don Nelson, and anybody who thinks that we're going to just change him and that he's going to have to fall in line or something like that, I get farther with Nelly when the two of us just sit down and talk. Russ Turner standing right over there. He'll tell you I spent about 2 days smoking cigars in front of a fireplace in Michigan just talking to Nelly. Now, don't take this wrong. I'm not taking credit for this. But in just talking with him, it set us up to go play Detroit, beat those guys, finish the season, I think 15-6, and go to the playoffs. I get farther with Nelly talking to him. And that's the way I intend to approach things. Now, if there's a problem that I haven't been able to prevent, then I have to deal with that. You can't hide from problems. But Nelly and I are such that if he sees something I'm doing that he says, Riles, you better think about that, I better think about it. It's that kind of a relationship.
Let me add to that a little, Larry, too, because Don hates to lose, and that's an issue. When you're not winning, that's an issue. So it's important that we have someone who can talk to him and deal with him. He does not like to lose basketball games.
All right, one last one.
Thank you. Kate Longworth with Comcast Sportsnet. Larry, you spent a lot of time in this hour addressing how you will talk to Don if things come up, and you're not afraid of that with your friendship. But how specifically does your closeness with him give you an edge when it comes to how this team's going to be run in the next couple months?
I think there's a trust factor there that doesn't exist between a lot of general managers and coaches. The ones that are successful, that trust factor is there. I think the edge that I have with Nelly is that trust factor. And I'm going to keep it there. And I have no doubt about where he's going with it. Will we hit a bump in the road? Yeah, we'll deal with it. But that trust factor is hugely important. And if you talk to teams across the league, whether you talk to head coaches or general managers, they all talk about those kinds of things. And the best ones are the ones that are natural, that you don't have to fake it. And that's what you really need to have. Now, sometimes it takes a while for that to develop. It did with Nelly and I. There's no question about that. But that's key in what we're doing. And I hope I haven't overstated anything here in regards. Nelly and I are going to work together. We're going to work with Robert Rowell regards to business decisions. There's going to be a triangle in effect here. And when Robert has to make tough decisions, he'll make them if they're in his area. When Nelly has to decide who to play he'll make those decisions. And when I have to decide on personnel decisions, I'll make those. And I hope I've been clear with that kind of thing.
Great. Thank you. Okay, we'll do a quick photo op. We can get Robert to stand up for TV and the newspaper as well. You guys saw in the hallway when you walked in, we have season review guys out there, information on the lottery. So make sure to get that on your way out.
Get it?
All right. Is that it?